Hello, I'm here today to talk about my feelings on The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. I read this back in July, so my thoughts are a little foggy, but let's see what I can tell you. The Ocean at the End of the Lane was published in June of 2013 as an adult fantasy novel. I picked this book up for two main reasons. The first one being several people whose opinions on books I respect and admire were reading and raving about this book, and Neil Gaiman's work in general. And that brings me to the second reason why I picked up this book. I was unsure of my feelings about Mr. Gaiman's work. Prior to this book, the only other Gaiman that I had ever read was The Graveyard Book. I liked it, but I didn't love it as so many others had. So I had decided that I was going to pick up The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and it was going to be the deciding factor on whether or not I liked Neil Gaiman's work. So we'll see how that went. Onto a very brief and slightly vague synopsis of this novel. A middle-aged man returns to his childhood home for a funeral. He stumbles upon his old neighbor's house and the pond that accompanies it. Upon visiting, he is flooded with memories of his childhood that are filled with unexplainable supernatural events. Most of the novel is from that memory from his 7 or 8-year-old self. Although this novel is told from the perspective of a young person, I think that the classification into adult fiction was fitting. It is accessible as far as reading wise to other age groups, but it does contain some slightly adult content. Onto the writing. The writing in this novel was quite beautiful. It had this old storytelling feel to it, if you know what I mean. Like, I felt like I was sitting down and someone was telling me this grand tale of their childhood. But I also felt strange throughout most of it. There's a lot going on in the story that can't be easily explained, and it remains that way. It remains unexplained. So as a reader, I felt like I never fully understood what was going on, but I think that that was the point, since these fantastical things were happening to a young person, and that perspective may have skewed it even more so. I think the best way to approach this novel is to know as little about it as you can. The reviews that I watched and read before reading this were also very vague in their synopsis. I think that that made the reading experience quite nice. It was a dark and captivating read, a little strange and fantastical, but it didn't completely sweep me off my feet. There was just something missing. Perhaps it was because, for the most part, it felt more like a short story than a full novel, and I think that I read somewhere that that was what this was originally intended to be, but I'm not sure if that's it. Regardless, I gave this book 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. If you're open to something sweet, dark, and a little strange, then give this a go. It's only 181 pages and definitely worth a try. I'm still unsure of how I feel about Gaiman's work, but I think it wasn't right of me to decide to judge a whole body of work based on a couple of individual pieces. Luckily, Gaiman has several other books that I have yet to read. So if you have any Gaiman suggestions, please leave them below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me in the comments if you plan to read this book or have read this book and what you thought about it. Thank you so much for watching.